Welcome to Did She Really Say That? The podcast for women who are done following the traditional business rules that don't serve us. I am your host, Katrina Van Housden, and in every episode, we break down what it really takes to scale your business as a woman. No burnout, no BS, no apologies. So if you're ready to discover how your natural female intelligence can become your biggest and most authentic advantage, grab your free guide at createherplanner.com/free. Now let's dive into today's episode. Well, welcome back, ladies. I'm excited for today's episode, really because this is somebody I love. Debra is somebody that I met. We automatically connected. I love her story that she's going to share with us today. And I think it's really interesting when I first met her. I think one of the things that captured my attention was the fact that she had owned three different businesses and had three different outcomes with this business. But not only that, what she's doing today and how this wraps around her life and everything that's going on. So I'm excited to welcome Debra Joy. She is in leadership and performance coaching and is a practitioner of somatic experiencing. It's a therapeutic method for healing stress and trauma in the body. She's done this for over 20 years. So this is not somebody that's just getting started. This is somebody that knows her shit. And I say that with honesty and love, right? So she's been working with high achieving, high performing women to really create what success looks like for her. How is she getting more money and the greater impact she's making while reducing her stress level? Anybody in my audience listening to this going, oh, me, please, right? So, but before coaching, Debra co-founded three businesses, right? So one she sold, one went absolutely nowhere. That kind of happens to us also, and one went public. So she's got a lot of experience behind her and for entrepreneurs to help them guide them through this process, right? That range of real world experience combined with masters in leadership and a deep training in somatic experiencing sets Debra apart, really giving her a niche in which to specialize in. She blends business smarts with the body's wisdom. Ladies, we need to listen to our body. This is why I have this entire podcast is listen to your body in a way few coaches can. So, Debra, I am so excited to have you here, in this conversation around being a woman working in your natural rhythm, what that takes, what that looks like, and what's your experience. So I'm absolutely excited to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Katrina. It's a pleasure. And I really love the work you're doing. It is so important what you're doing. So I'm glad we're getting to work together.
Oh, we are hand in hand, right? Like we are both needed for what we're doing inside of this. So let's start with your origin story. I know I shared a little bit about it, but how did you get started? So you came from the corporate space, had businesses, and like, let's start there.
Yeah, so I always was interested in business. I'm not sporty, I'm not those things. And I really love nature. And those two things don't seem like they would combine. And at first they didn't. I worked in an investment firm and I liked it. And then I went on a cycling trip to Vermont and I was just
Mm.
immersed in nature and thought, what am I doing with my life? Not that investment is bad. I actually circled back to it in a different way. But I had this deep realization that a lot of what we were investing in was actually harming the planet that I cared so much
Mm.
about. And I thought, I want work that's aligned with what I care about most. And I didn't know what that would be. So I got back home and I quit my job and I went to work for a skincare company. I knew nothing about skincare, I knew nothing about sales, but they were the only business. This is the 80s. I'm ancient. So
You're
it
not
was,
ancient, you're wisdom and beautiful. Let's go
thank
there.
you. And it was the only company I knew of, other than food companies, that was really caring about the planet.
Mm.
They didn't test on animals, they recycled. So I finally convinced one of the stores to give me a job. And I think I was pretty terrible at sales, but someone saw something in me. And within about 9 months, I was shipped out to the West Coast to start turning around problem stores.
Huh.
And yeah, that was interesting. So I couldn't change the location, couldn't change the product or the prices. There was little I could affect, but I could impact the staff and the systems. And I learned pretty quickly I had a knack for both those things.
Mm.
I got really excited about, like, not many people want to make their whole life working in retail selling skincare. So, I would, have these women say, well, what do you want to do with your life? And how can working here give you some of those skills?
Mm.
And I found it so rewarding to work with my teams and teach them about investing, even though it had nothing to do with their work, and put systems in place that meant they didn't have to be stressed in their job. They could give their focus to the customer.
And
So,
that is
go
so
ahead.
beautiful because I think you're a rare leader in the world, to be honest, even in the retail space, that talks to the employee about what their lives and dreams are beyond here, beyond like what skill set do you want to develop while you're here? And then talking about investing, like, oh my gosh, where were you in my life, back in the early days? Because dear Lord, that is brilliant. Like you're a rare
Oh,
jewel. I'm just pointing that out right now. You're a rare jewel.
oh, thanks. Well, I really think everything we do is selfish,
Mm,
even the most altruistic things. And so
true.
working with my teams in that way gave me satisfaction. I got to know them at a deep level. And honestly, they performed better. I mean, don't know if I even consciously thought they would,
Mm,
but they did, you know?
intuitively.
Yeah. I'm not the best salesperson. I wasn't the best at teaching sales, but I could teach customer care.
Mm. I think
And
that is what sales is, and in all honesty, it is customer care. I think when you care about the customer, they feel that, and that's what has them reach for their wallet. Like that's what has them say yes to you. Even in your opening conversation, you're like, I found a skincare company that hit all the points. Like that's what has you open your wallet is there is a care, there is a way to have service that just makes you feel like, wow, this is my home. This is the people I want to be around.
I agree because I hate being sold to and I love buying shit. Like both are
Same,
true.
same. Yep. I want to buy all the time, but it's like, that's it. I want to make sure I'm spending my dollars where it makes the most sense.
Hmm.
I want to make sure that it's doing something good for the world. It's not just a capitalistic move, right? So there's some things I know that I can't avoid around that. But
Right.
being that conscious shopper is part of what makes the joy of being a woman. Because in all honesty, I think I heard the number was something like 70% of disposable income is controlled by women.
Yes.
That's a crap ton, shit ton. I'm saying I'm cussing on my own podcast. That's a crap ton of money to be in control of, and yet we think we don't have any power in the world. Like I find that kind of ironic in what we're doing.
I know. One of the things I like teaching people, I call it your power place.
Mm,
So I teach my clients to discover their power place, right? And that is a combination of what are the things you're really good at doing or even great at doing, which rarely we say that about ourselves. What do you love to do? What are your preferences? What are the unique qualities of you that maybe are even kind of quirky? And how do you design your life and business around you doing more of that stuff
mm.
and less of the other stuff? And when you do that, when you actually feel your true power, you are naturally empowering to other people. If you see anyone who's keeping people down, they're not truly powerful. They're clinging to their power out of insecurity. But a truly empowered person, man or woman, they can't help but empower people around them. So when women feel empowered with their money, they do amazing things with it.
They do. They do. So let's dive into some of this conversation around how you're helping women. And then I want to dive into like how you designed your business. Because I think
Okay.
that's another piece that a lot of women struggle around is like, does my business have to look like everything else that's out there? So you talk about working with women inside of their rhythm. How does that Tuesday afternoon that everything's crazy and busy and everything else, how do we design a rhythm around like what feels like chaotic in our lives sometimes?
Right. Well, I think it's important to notice, your listeners can note even, do you have a chaotic day from time to time or a chaotic or urgent week? Or is urgency how it always feels to you? And they're very different, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, 4 deadlines and kids home sick from school. This is a busy time. Or that's the way I always effing feel. So understanding the root cause of it is really important. So we can look at if it, I just want to speak to the person who always feels that way, because that's a lot of the people I work with. Understanding that's not what's happening in your world that's creating that urgency. That's an internal system. And sadly, like an overwhelming amount of people right now have dysregulated nervous systems. And we hear about regulated and dysregulated, but all it means is we're designed to be able to have this conversation, connect with ourselves and each other, to be able to grab our thoughts, to make good decisions and be creative and be able to sleep well and digest our food and heal our bodies. And then when there's real threat, bam, that all turns off and we are full alert, go mode, able to protect ourselves. But when we're dysregulated, that lovely flow between one and the other of like alert and calm, it doesn't happen anymore. And we stay kind of stuck in the go mode, right? We're just ready to go. So everything feels urgent.
Yeah.
And then we have practices in business that fuel that urgency. One of the big ones is working from a to-do list or a calendar, because that's just a list of things that are all screaming for your attention.
Yep.
And it feels natural, because if you're feeling revved inside, looking at something outside that revs, just like, okay, I'm alive. This is normal. This is familiar. Our nervous systems will always go towards what feels familiar, because it's had decades of keeping you alive in this familiar state. It feels normal, right? Change feels threatening. So, one of the things I'll teach people to do is somatic practices that just gently, over time, repetitively interrupt that stress response. And we can talk about that. The other thing I do is teach them real business tools that stop that response. So one of them would be stop working from a to-do list and actually work on priorities. And people go, they're all a priority. I've got 15 priorities this week. That's not
That's
correct.
not true at all.
Yeah.
You really don't have 50 priorities every single week or every single day.
Right.
That's the myth that we hold.
Right. And so it takes a little bit of work up front. It
Mm.
takes, what do I actually care about? What are my true goals? And how do I want to feel when I achieve that goal? Why is that goal important to me? Okay, now if those are my goals, what do I really have to do to achieve them? And I'll say to people, like, plan for next week and say, if I could only do one thing next week, that's it towards my goal. What's the most important thing I could do and why? And I tell you, Katrina, of all the practices I teach clients, shifting from to-do lists to priorities is the one I get the most resistance around.
Yep, same. Because I do similar work. Like we created the Create Her Planner, which is
Yeah.
built around the monthly cycle. It's the same thing. They're like, I can't do this. I'm like, and you've never been taught this. So Deborah and I are one of the few practitioners in the world, apparently, that teach on a more planning of your month rather than the to-do list of your day, because that is
Yes.
exhausting to look at.
Right. Right. And even looking ahead, like, what's my priority for this year? You
Yeah.
know? And sometimes your nervous system is so revved that actually sitting down to do that is terrifying. So it's okay when people aren't ready. I'll say, great, we're just going to work more on somatic practices that interrupt that, because you just need more moments of safety. And as
Hmm.
safety becomes more of a norm for you, then it can feel safe to make a change in the way you work.
Yes. So for the women that you're working with, and I know we both talk businesses, let's talk a little bit about your business. So there's the work you're doing with women, and you, my listeners, you know the thing, reach out to Deborah. We're going to have a special at the very end of this. Like, it is about connecting with these women. That's part of the journey, right? So if you're hearing something from Deborah and you're like, I know somebody that could use this, share the podcast, share this episode. Like, that's what we're here for. But let's dive into, like, how did you design your business? So you left the corporate space, started building your businesses. You've had three different companies at three different levels of, one went public, one went nowhere, one got sold. How do you design your business as a woman? That I think is one thing that we're really struggling with as we're stepping into entrepreneurship. We're wanting to hear from other women that are just doing things a little differently. So how did you kind of design your business? What was the beginning like for you?
Now, when you say, do you mean my coaching business or
Yeah, your
previous?
coaching business.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting story. So I had designed past businesses as the ultimate people pleaser. So
Mm.
it's like, I'll do it all, and that led to burnout in a pretty
Yep.
big way. And not that I didn't love the businesses I did, but I didn't know how to put myself first. So I was actually pretty sick when I started my coaching business.
Hmm.
I had actually had to leave. I was working for a venture fund that invested in green businesses. It was great. It was exciting. They'd invested in two of my businesses, but I got really sick and I had to leave.
Hmm.
So when I was ready to start work again, I asked myself if I could have it any way I want, what would this business look like? Something I don't think I had ever asked myself before about relationship, clothing. Anything. I don't think it was a question that occurred to me, but suddenly, with having had this space to heal both my physical body and my nervous system and my attitude and my relationships, I went through a divorce, all kinds of things changed. If I could have it any way I want. And the answer was, because I was actually bedridden a lot still, I was still
Hmm.
quite sick. And I said, I would help people while I'm lying in bed. I would talk to them on the phone. I would listen deeply. I would give them advice, and they would just magically find me.
Hmm.
That's actually what happened.
I love that though. I love the question because I think that's where no matter what business we're designing, and I'll ask you hypothetically, if you had had that conversation with any of your three previous businesses that you had created, do you think those businesses would have been different?
Oh, Katrina, they would have been really different. And I couldn't even have answered that question at the time. Like I would have to have been a different person to
Yeah.
actually think I was worthy of asking that question.
Hmm.
I see that in my clients now sometimes, like, well, who am I to have it any way I want? I think, well, if you can't, how are you going to lead other women to? Right? Like you could be a way shower in this.
Yeah.
And I did deal with a lot of guilt around how easy it was for me, how easy it felt for me. And it was actually some other women who shared when you actually share how good things are in your life, either in your marriage, current marriage, or, it actually inspires me.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that was possible. So that was exciting.
Because there's part of us, I think, as women, we also feel that it's bragging, and we don't want to necessarily brag or highlight what we're doing. We feel like that's the ego side coming out, and we're not supposed to be that in the world, right? Which is
Right.
crazy because there's so many accolades that we achieve as women in different areas of our life, motherhood, relationships, friendships. Like it doesn't just have to be the career or the business. And sometimes I think we put that on the back burner. It's like, well, that's just what I do, kind of a thing.
Yeah, we do diminish ourselves. Like one of the favorite things I have when people is like, wow, that person was really present. That's a skill. They were really listening. They wouldn't necessarily think, I'm a great listener. I'm really present. Look at me.
I wouldn't brag about it, right? It
Right.
still takes something for me to like brag about what's going on in the business because I'm just like, that's just kind of what I'm doing. And it's the doing, I think, that we don't necessarily always look at and say, wow, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that we do celebrate the process
Yeah.
because so often we're thinking about this goal and this goal's off in the future. And, oh, I'll rest when I get that done, or I'll celebrate when I get there. It's like, what if you chose a priority for today and you did it? You just like had a little celebration that you did what you said you were going to do, or you did a hard thing, or you had a beautiful conversation with an employee. Like, let's celebrate the process along the way because we don't know if we're going to get to the goal. Life is uncertain.
And that goal shifts too. Sometimes you're looking at that intention and you're like, well, I think I'm gonna go here. And all of a sudden it's like a door, another door open and that one closed. And you're like, well, that was interesting. Like I just went down a whole different pathway than what my intention was behind this and now got shifted because of a conversation I had. Remember, you and
Right.
I are having a conversation. Sometimes whoever's listening for this all of a sudden has like a different approach in their business. They're hearing something differently. Those are the little shifts and changes that make the biggest difference in our world.
So true. And we change, right? Like in both my private coaching and my online program, we start with what is your goal? As people evolve and get to express more of their true self, it's interesting to see how their goal changes,
Yep.
becomes more
Sometimes I think it's
authentic.
sometimes I feel like it's surface level. Like when I started doing like the goals, it was kind of like I just want this, like it was like a survival goals, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the sense of like, well, I want to go to France. Well, what would you want to do in France? Like what would be an experience? Well, I want this restaurant here, I want to experience this. And now you're getting into like the feeling of bringing it alive instead of just trying to like one day, someday, you're actually creating the experience in your head as if that's already happening. And you and I both know, Deborah, when we talk about that, it brings it to life in a way that it's like your subconscious goes, yeah, let's have that happen, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. And the reason we want any goal is because of how we think it's going to make us feel, right? So you're
Hmm.
so smart to like, it's the feeling in that restaurant. Of course, as a chef, you would think about the
I go right
restaurant.
with food. I'm like in the creme brulee that's
Yes.
there, and yes,
And you can taste it, right? If
yes.
you think about tasting creme brulee, like, oh, my mouth is watering already.
Hmm.
It feels so yummy. And so part of the work I do with women, which I think anyone can start doing, get really clear on how you're going to feel when you achieve that goal and find ways to start doing your work right now, feeling that way. And it's absolutely not fake it till you make it. Like if I want to take my business from 1 million to 10 million, and I go, I would feel so generous. I would feel so secure. Okay,
Mm,
what are the things I can do in my workday to be generous and secure feeling?
yeah.
And secure might mean every time I sit down in the chair, I actually let myself feel my ass in the chair because I feel that chair supporting me and it sends a message to my brain that I'm safe. Okay, how would I be generous? I'm actually just going to send an appreciative email to someone right now or a text. Like it can be moments that give you that feeling you want 5 years from now.
Yep.
You could feel it right now and it will change the way you work.
Love this. So I'm gonna ask you kind of a business question because this is like because we're working with women, so they're both the entrepreneur and everything else. One of the big questions that also comes up, we kind of touched on it with the money conversation, pricing your services.
Mhm.
Easy or hard, and what was the experience? Like, did you start off kind of low in the beginning and build up, or like what was that experience for you in designing your business, your
Oh, I
coaching
started
business?
so low. I can't remember so low because I had I had never coached before. Like every business, there's something new. There's a learning curve. And I think all of us deal with imposter syndrome, which isn't really a bad thing because you're just thinking, well, I've never done this before. I'm kind of faking it. And then I think, okay, competence builds confidence, right? So in the beginning, I wasn't confident it would work. I'm lying in bed hoping people call. I've done it for free. I just wanted to be of service. So it was really low. And I can't remember at what moment, but I meditate regularly. I'm really just in meditation one day, an amount came to me that was probably 10 times what I was charging.
Woo.
And it just felt so right in my body.
Okay.
It was just a boom. Now, I know not everyone one can say I'm going to follow that formula, but I do use my body as a real guide to what feels right.
Thank you for that.
In-
Important.
yeah. And then my head would get involved like, you can't charge that. Oh my God, you can't charge it. So I told a couple of close friends who know me well, can you please hold me to this?
Mm,
Like, it was so clear to me this is the right amount. Can you hold me to it? And they lovingly held me to it. And I didn't make a public statement. I didn't want to be shamed or anything. It's just like people I trusted. And what was interesting was I would often get a flurry of calls in January,
mm,
like when people want to start coaching and change their life and they've set goals. And I get all these new businesses. Well, when I would tell people the new rate, people didn't call back. And so there
mm,
was a lot of that, like, oh, I made a terrible mistake. Oh, this is awful. And then one friend said, well, how will you feel going back to your old rate? And I said, oh, sick to my stomach. It
mm.
would be awful. It wasn't this ego thing like, oh, this is what I'm worth. It felt like this is the value of the work, and I'm living in service to the work. It's almost not about me. I'm a servant to this work in the world to support women who want to make an impact in the world. I could be doing it in a bunch of different ways. I do it in the way I garden and help my neighbors. This is just one of the ways. So I felt this is actually the value of that work, whether I'm doing it or someone else. And so when I separated the price from
Hmm.
my own personal worth,
Yeah.
it felt a lot more clear.
With your background in finances, did you also go through like, what are my expenses in my business? Is this a sustainable amount? Because I feel like sometimes we price low. And when I work with women, this is often the conversation. It's like, is that going to sustain the success or the quality of life that you want it to bring in for you, yourself, your family, whatever that you're in? Is this is sustainable as a business
Right.
for
And
you?
that's a really important question and not one I looked at all. It
Okay.
just has been fantastic.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Just because I'm always curious, because this is the money question always comes up with women, like what are you receiving for your services? How are you receiving it? What does that look like? How is that playing out in your life?
Mm,
Because I feel like sometimes, and I've heard this from stages and everything else, the number is whatever you make of it, whatever you're most comfortable receiving at the time you're willing to receive it.
yeah.
And I was like, there's truth in that. And I also look at if there's the sustainable, because one of the things I see often is the drop off of sustainability. Women are able to bring in that price. They keep going, which is why I love the work you do about, slowing down your rhythm. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like inside of that? Right? Not to be consumed by, but to be woven into. And so this whole conversation around how do we keep women from sliding right back into that burnout state? Like what are we doing to kind of put in guardrails around that? And how are we helping and supporting women? Like where can we go? There have been some of your favorite places or communities or organizations that have really continued to support you in your work?
Mostly not business related things. So, learning permaculture design and being around people who are into permaculture. So, permaculture is a way of in community, being with land, being with your own property in a way that's actually regenerative. And so, what that basically means is you put in less effort for higher yields because you're working in sync with nature.
Mm,
And so that fuels me personally, it fuels my community, bring a lot of that into my business. Women are leading the way in making business more aligned like that, but we tend to run our businesses in general more like big ag, right? Just very extractive, having to put in so much effort, so many chemicals, things like that that actually extract from the earth.
yeah.
Whereas we're finding a new way of doing. And I think it has to be a combination of business practices that support that and the internal work. One or the other without both isn't going to find the balance you want.
Of that. So what is somebody that wants to work with you? What's the easiest or fastest way to get with you and say, "Hey, Deborah, I want to learn more about the work that you do, possibly working with you." What would that look like for your client?
Okay, the easiest way is my website, debrajoy.me. I have a questionnaire you'd fill out. We would do a little interview. And in that interview, my intention is you walk away with some value,
Mm,
like some clarity, something you can use right away, whether we ever talk again or not. Like really, it's just like, how can I be of service? The other is my self-paced program, which is thesuccesssolution.co. That's a program taking all of my neuroscience and business practices and taking you through at your own pace the program. And it does actually include one private session. So either of those will lead to me at some point.
okay. And how did you come up with these two variations, both the business of the one-on-one and the course?
I was doing the coaching for 20 years, as you said, and having like pretty profound results with clients and thinking, I do have a big appetite for life. I thought I personally had to save the planet and realized I couldn't. And then it was like, I have to save every woman. I have to do more of this. And I noticed that old like pattern, right? Of like, I have to be working more. And I don't want to.
Mm,
I'm beautifully whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed by my work. I'm not underwhelmed. There's this nice state of whelm. And I don't want to stress myself out. And I just got this idea of like, oh, if I could offer it to groups, I get to put all of this into play and they get to play with it in the world, and what I like is by working with leaders, especially in my private work, they're impacting their teams. I'll say
true.
like, teach this process to someone else. This isn't a patented thing. Like, go share it in the world. And same with the online program, when we'll come back and say, I've taught this to my whole team and it's changing. Like, that's great. So the idea was just spread it, just get this out in the world. Let's have more healing so women can be truly empowered in every way.
I love that. So what is the audacious goal? How many women are you looking to continue to impact?
Oh, that's so interesting. I don't think that way.
Hmm. No, this is good thing. I was just the question that came up for me. I was like, well, that's an interesting question I've never asked before, but
Oh,
okay,
that's
we'll ask
cool.
Deborah that question. So I love your response first and foremost.
Yeah, I don't think that way. I guess I'm sort of more in the moment. Like right now, I'm
Mm,
just thinking, I have this really great experience with you. Like I'm picking up on like how excited you are and how the work you're doing in the world. So if I think about audacious goals, just there isn't a number, but it's like if
mm.
one woman writes to me, which happened recently, about how something really changed her life and she felt so seen and heard and felt by working through the program, like done. I'm done. I'm so well, beautiful. Like if I die tomorrow, I'm a happy girl.
And I think that question came up for me to ask because I want women to hear that there is that goal, that male orientation of how many women do you want to help, like that numbers game doesn't always serve us as women.
Right. And it does for some. I do have clients who are very driven that way. So I support them in that. Like, yes, that's part of you being in your power is like you have that yang energy and want that. Yeah, feed that girl. Like that's great. Me, not so much. I need someone to be more like me. I need you to be
You
more
to be
like
you.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and supporting that. And I think when I listening to you and just how you're supporting women, it's like you're the base system of the support of bringing out that inner fire, whatever that looks like, right? So it's not them what to do, it's the recognition of that they have already have the answer inside of them.
Yes.
And you're cultivating that, just like you're cultivating the earth, just like you're regenerating. You're saying there's nothing outside of you that you need to fix. There's nothing wrong, right? So what we're looking at is who do you know yourself to be? And let's start honoring her and what
Mhm.
she brings to the world because that is the creative, for me, well, my experience is that's the creative process of being a woman. We think outside the box. We're going to challenge the norm. We want something different. That is why so many of us are becoming entrepreneurs, is we're exhausted of everything. There's like this doesn't work for us. But if we're building the same architect that exhausts us, how are we serving ourselves?
It's so true. So many women I know, they've left the corporate world because that didn't work. And then they'll build a business exactly in that model
Like
and
the
go,
corporate world.
yeah, I'm like, I'm the worst boss I've ever had. I'm the most horrible slave driver. It's like, right, because we have that conditioning inside of us. So often the work I do, I don't even think of like teaching new things or adding new things. I'm helping women shed what's not authentic. And there's this great true story in the 50s in Thailand, a Buddhist monastery was having to be moved, and they're moving these massive Buddha clay statues. And one broke, the ropes broke that were moving it, and it chipped. And there was this clay that chipped off, and they realized underneath it was solid gold. And it had been covered in clay hundreds of years ago to protect it from invaders, so people wouldn't know it was valuable. But then it was something, oh my God, the gold is shining through. This is amazing. And I think of us like that.
Yeah.
We want to shine. There is something inside us so beautiful that wants to shine, but we took on this conditioning as kids in our homes, in maybe our religious communities, our schools, and we did a lot of things to fit in because it was safe and it worked. It protected us. Here we are, but we're not getting to shine.
Mm-mm.
And so we have to learn like, oh, those ways maybe they worked then, but I don't need them now. I was the ultimate people pleaser. I don't need that. And not everybody's pleased by it, but I get to shine in my own unique way. And so
Yeah.
we find out what are the conditionings that are the clay blocking your gold, and I help them shed those.
I love that because that is the journey, right? It's the shedding of and I still know that even for myself, even my journey, there's still layers to shine through, right? You get to the point that you're like, but there's more I'm still holding back. You can feel it after a
Yes.
while, right? Like you start to get in tune with your body, like, nope. That was resistance. Yeah, that was kind of cool. All right. So how do
Right.
I move through that one? And I think when you talk about like the somatic practices, that's the getting present. And not only do women need that, but I often find men are begging for that, right? They're also trying to figure out how to regulate for themselves. And I think for us women, the work that we do is really getting us present back into our bodies. Because I found, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I found a lot of time I was working from the neck up.
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah.
I was
100%.
I was from the neck up, I was fantastic. What if you asked me anything about my body below the neck, I was like, it's got boobs and a vagina, and it I don't know, like I had no connection to actually what my body was trying to tell me, how it was speaking to me. I was like, yeah, that it's not important, right? Like I would dismiss it all the time. And that I think is part of that of your light is part of just not accepting every element and aspect of who you are.
Oh, I so agree. Like we forget we're in these bodies. At least you knew yours was there. I felt like mine was a weight that kept my head slowed down. Like, damn, I'm dragging this body around. I want to do way more than this. It
Yeah.
needs to sleep.
Yeah, who needs sleep? I'll do that when I'm dead. I've heard that. I think I've actually said that a couple times. I'm like, wow, how little I understood what I was actually saying out loud in the universe. Like,
Right.
kind of scary. So yes,
Yeah.
but this conversation, Deborah, and I know this is one of the reasons so that we were meant to connect is that there's just a beauty and grace in what you do. 20 years proven that you're impacting the lives, the business background you have, the connection to Earth. I feel like even through this, even though we're virtual, I feel like I can feel that Mother Earth essence
Ooh.
around you. And I just want to acknowledge the beauty of that because I feel that as we embrace that mother nature as a woman, you start to shine and communicate with each other in a way that is absolutely going to be stunning in the world that we'll live in.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, I love that.
So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And again, for all of our listeners, ladies, if Deborah said anything that, again, just struck you and just like her voice, her tonality, if you're watching the video and you're like, man, I really want to like just connect with her and have a conversation, reach out. Right? If you found a woman that you're thinking of, if somebody's name came up in your head and you're like, she needs to hear this, the audio, let them know that this is out there. Because here's the thing, when women hear from other women what they're doing in business, how they're supporting women, things shift for us. We stop feeling alone in what we're experiencing in our business, in our lives, in our health, in our mental states, all of it. And I think that's what Deborah brings. That's not what I think. This is what I know Deborah brings to the stage. Calming peace, the sense of support, and really cheering you on for your greatness. So thank you, my listeners, for listening in to Did She Really Say That? As always, it's been an honor to be your host. Deborah, it's an honor to have you as a guest, and we'll see you all on the next episode. If today's conversation hit home, don't just listen, take the next step. Download the free Create Her Authentically guide at createherplanner.com/free and discover how to build your business in alignment with your natural rhythm. And if you love this episode, please leave a review. It helps more women find the show. I'll see you in the next episode.